The cool down is on for this major heat wave in the Willamette Valley. This is going to be my final update on what's going to be happening the next couple of days, and will also include statistics from this event and a special little extra feature at the very end. The National Weather Service watches and warnings includes the excessive heat warning being dropped for the Willamette Valley. There is an air quality alert in place, but that will expire by 6 a.m. on Thursday morning. Therefore, by the time most of you are watching this, that will have already expired. An excessive heat warning does remain in place, however, for the Columbia River Gorge, the Columbia Basin, and lower sections of Central Oregon, as the heat there will remain for a couple of days longer, and the heat advisory for the Cascades will remain until tomorrow night at 10 p.m. For the highs that occurred yesterday, probably the only day on my forecast that really the temperatures overperformed my forecast, I would argue, in the Portland area. Most of these records occurred from a heat wave that happened in August of 1977, which prior to this heat wave was widely considered to be the gold standard, along with September of 1988 for late summer heat waves. Both Eugene and Troutdale hit 105 degrees, Portland and Hillsborough hit 103 degrees, Corvallis and Vancouver hit 102 degrees, and Salem hit 104 degrees. So on to the statistics part of it. The longest streaks at or over 100. This will go down as having 3 days for this year, with 101, 108, and 2 days at 103, which is tied for second place with August 7th through 10th of 1981, which was 103, 107, 105, and 107. Prior to 2021, that contained 2 of the 3 days where we've hit Portland's previous all-time temperature record of 107, and now with this heat wave, we've beaten that in 2 separate heat waves in a span of 3 years. That is not the record for longest streaks at or over 100. That remains a heat wave in 1941, which contains 5 days at or over 100 degrees, but not a single day over 103. 3 days at or over 100 is more common, occurring 6 other times, most recently in June of 2021, and you can read the other years that it occurred. For the number of days in a summer over 100, and 4 summers, well, at least so far, this summer is not over yet, has had 5 days where it's at 100 degrees or more, 2 of which was the previous 2 summers, and then the aforementioned 1977 summer and 1941 summers also are included in that list. So far, we've had 4 days at or over 100 degrees, and also the 2 summers of 2006, 1992, and 1981 are also included on that list. For 3 days at or over 100, a total of 9 years, most recently, I believe, in 2016. Now, this slide is just going to be my personal opinion on, is this the worst heat wave in Portland's history, because it's already being asked on certain weather forums. No. What I like to call the mother of all heat waves back in June of 2021 still takes the number 1 spot, simply because the high temperatures were 108, 112, and 116 in Portland, even hotter in Salem with 117 on that last day, and it also includes the all-time record warm low of 75 degrees. So I wouldn't even argue it's number 2, but a reasonable case can be made for number 2. The 1981 Great Heat Wave, which, going back 2 slides, was the other time it's hit 100 degrees or more for 4 consecutive days in a row. That is my number 2 spot. And that's because while the heat wave we're currently coming out of right now is more extreme for the hottest single day and contained hotter overnight temperatures, the 1981 heat wave had 4 days at or above 103 compared to 3 here. 3 of them were at or above 105 degrees, and that statistic has only been matched by 2021. So while we had more extreme heat, that had more consistent heat. And personally, when I'm ranking heat waves, I like to weight the high temperatures a little bit more than the low temperatures because it does warm up pretty quickly in the morning hours, negating a lot of the impacts that the colder overnight temperatures have outside. Inside, not so much, but more people are getting air conditioning now, so that's becoming less of a concern than it was before. This heat wave, I would say, would be probably the clear number 3, just because 4 days at or above 100, and 3 of those being daily records for both high temperatures and low temperatures. Tonight will be number 4, most likely, and it also contained the hottest August day on record. So going to other statistics, the average temp for the first half of August, which I'm ending on the 15th since I'm recording this at 11:30 p.m. The data from August 16th is not in this chart yet, so the rink may be rising a little bit more. So this is the average temperature, and for 2023, it's already at number 2. I suspect that will increase to number 1 after August 16th is included in this, if you decide to include that as a first half of August day. For the high temperatures, it's a little bit lower at the number 4 spot, with the aforementioned 1981 summer at number 3, the 2021 summer, and while that wasn't necessarily extremely hot, it was consistently hot and did contain 2 days at or above 100 degrees. And then the 1977 summer is at the number 1 spot. Again, I could see this jumping a few spots, but at the highest it would be number 2 when you factor in the 16th of August. Low temperatures, this is already the number 1 spot. If you add the 16th in here, that will only make it creep even higher. Now, moving on to your regularly scheduled programming here. Last daylight satellite imagery from the University of Washington shows more clouds moving into the southern Willamette Valley. This is not smoke. This is clouds. You can see smoke over the Pacific Ocean being more in a banding nature. There is also smoke intermixed with this clouds, but it's difficult to pinpoint on this satellite image. So the smoke is really concentrated only around Eugene and specific bands as you go northwards, but the influence of the upper level smoke is gone today. Now these clouds will creep further north in the Willamette Valley, though I don't anticipate any rain will come. From this will pretty much just be morning clouds and afternoon sunshine. Back to typical summer weather, but it'll just be on the hot side. There's no forecast notes today. The forecast is pretty typical for late summer, but just a couple of degrees above average. So here we go with the 7-day forecast. I'm anticipating no daily record high temperatures, with today being a high in the mid 90s, cooling off to the mid 80s is tomorrow, and warming back up to the upper 80s as we go into the weekend and early next week. Lows pretty consistently in the upper 50s, except for tomorrow night, in which case I'm expecting a low of 62. For Corvallis in the South Valley, pretty similar, a couple of degrees colder to start off with, mainly due to the microclimate. I believe today will be the last day that the microclimates will have any significant impact, but I think the impact will be lessened compared to what it usually has been, compared to what it was yesterday at time of recording, when it was more severe than today's record hot temperatures. High temperatures will drop into the mid 80s. I am anticipating it getting back up to 90 degrees now on Sunday, before cooling back off into the mid 80s as we go into next week. Now, if you've noticed, I've put some asterisks on Tuesday and Wednesday next week, both on the Portland Metro and the Corvallis and the Southern Willamette Valley slides. What's that about? Well, this is the bonus section. There is a tropical storm, soon to be hurricane, in the eastern Pacific named Hillary, and it's expected to either make landfall or just miss California in either the Los Angeles or San Diego area in about 4.5 days. While the current National Hurricane Center forecast does not indicate it will be tropical, and that is the most likely outcome because it would turn non-tropical by a couple of hours, there is still a chance it could remain tropical and the system's just persnickety. If it does make landfall as a tropical storm, it would be the first time since 1939 a Pacific hurricane has made landfall in the continental United States. Now, the remnants may bring rain to our area. Now, for a better chance in the Willamette Valley, it needs to be a near miss. So pretty close to the coast of California, but not quite making landfall. The chance really begins on Wednesday evening. So while I do have the chance for Corvallis, that's because since it's moving from south to north, that rain chance does start early enough for me to put the rain graphic versus Portland. It doesn't start early enough for me to put the rain graphic on there. Now, the forecast does assume model consensus the landfall path. Therefore, we would stay dry in Portland, but not in the southern Willamette Valley, as by the time it reaches our latitude, it will also start to peel towards the east. Now, tropical storms tend to be more resilient than typical non-tropical systems, so this is something that's worth watching. I'm probably not going to be making a video if it just ends up being a typical late summer soaker, but if it's something more significant like inch plus of rainfall in late August, which would be pretty rare, or a significant chance of thunderstorms, I would at least consider making a video then. So what I mean by this is if the low pressure or if the hurricane makes landfall in the LA or San Diego area, it would likely push either up the Central Valley or east of the Sierra Nevada, and this most likely would force it over and east of the Cascades, and as a result it would miss the Portland metro area. Some lingering moisture would leak over the Cascades in areas where the Cascades and Coast Range are almost connected or are connected, which pretty much means just the southern Willamette Valley from Corvallis southward. Now, the second path, to use a different color, I'm going to use orange for this, would be it does stay off the coast, and this would bring at least the chance of rain, possibly a little bit significant by August standards, not by December standards, to the Willamette Valley. Now, this is worth watching. I will say that the left track is something that less models are picking up than the right track. However, that left track is picked up by the European model, which is widely seen as one of the more accurate models, if not the most accurate. This is the National Hurricane Center forecast path. They only go out to 5 days for forecast because that's the longest you can make an accurate hurricane forecast for. It does show that the system will turn non-tropical by the time it makes landfall, but the forecast position before it just got downgraded from a hurricane, so there's an off chance at least that it could make landfall as a tropical system, but more likely than not it will not make landfall as a tropical system. That is subject to change, and because it's making a track that is pretty much parallel to Baja California, even 10 miles east or west can make a big difference in the system. So again, worth watching. If this evolves to the point where a significant threat does develop for Oregon, I'll at least consider making a video on it depending on the level of the threat. So as always with these severe weather events, I'm going to go back over my performance over the last few days where I have done videos to see how well I did. So for the high temperatures in the Portland area, I was only about a degree off for each day, with the exception of August 16th, where I was 2 degrees off. This also includes correctly predicting, tying, or breaking the all-time August record, depending on which video you watch. Corvallis, I was a little worse, where I was an average of about 3.5 degrees for high temperatures. Lows in both locations were consistently about 2 degrees too warm. except for today where I was spot on in Portland. Corvallis, I was still 2 degrees off, and I caught on to the 4 days in a row where it would be 100 degrees plus earlier than the model consensus. So that is it for this video. We'll see what the odds are here in a couple of days of whether or not I'll make a video on what will be Hurricane Hillary. If you put a gun to my head and say, do you think it's going to affect our area? I would say no. So it's more likely than not I won't make a video, but that is in what I like to call clown range at this point. So we'll see what happens with that. If that video doesn't happen, the next guaranteed video is going to be in late October for the annual winter weather predictions video. So if I don't see you here in about a week or so, I will see you at the latest. Then please stay safe out there, stay cool, and take care.